All right, here we go. Episode 18, Legends and Dragons podcast, Legends Lair, Chance Burleson.
Jimmy Clown.
Hey, this is episode 18, so we are legal today, boys.
Yep.
We can go buy, this podcast can go buy a pack of cigarettes.
Actually, not anymore.
Oh,
You had to be 21.
Oh, is it 21 now?
You had to be 21 to buy nicotine.
But you can vote.
And die.
Yeah.
And vote and die by time.
Actually, you can die younger. Because I enlisted in the military at 17. My mom had to sign a permission slip, so you can actually go younger.
My dad joined the Navy at 17, but he lied. By the time they caught him, he was 18.
Yeah, I don't think that flies in.
No, it doesn't.
Hey, look at that. What does that say?
Everything was on paper in the 50s, though, so it was harder to catch people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rich Bulger, thank you for joining us on this podcast, sir.
No, hey, better episode 18 than no episode at all. This is my favorite podcast.
So,
We need to branch out more then.
yeah. So let me do a quick introduction of Mr. Rich Bulger. I didn't write anything down, so I'm just going off memory here. Rich Bulger, Army veteran.
Yes, sir.
You are, of course, a father, 2 awesome boys. You are a husband. You are a published author, which we'll get into here pretty soon. What else? College grad.
Yes, sir.
And black belt in karate and a world champion in karate.
Yeah.
Could you? Wow. Yeah. So go ahead. I just want to know about the world championship in karate. That way I can have a chance to make fun of you.
Yep.
Well, my martial arts journey actually started in high school. You know, I was bullied a lot in middle school. I got this tooth knocked out on my 3rd day of my 3rd high school in my freshman year.
Oh.
Childhood divorce, grew up poor. And every time I moved, I had to start over. And the time that we moved was a pivotal moment. Mm-hmm. One of the things I love about martial arts is sometimes you're a white belt, and then you get to be your belt before intermediate. Sometimes you're the biggest and strongest in the ring, you're gay, and you are the youngest and least experienced. And it's how martial arts works, but that's also how school works.
Right.
And you go from elementary school, and when you go from elementary school to middle school, you go from being the oldest and most experienced, youngest and smallest.
Right.
That happened to me during my parents' divorce when we moved from New Jersey to Knoxville.
Okay.
I didn't know what a damn Yankee was, and I didn't know that I was one of them until I moved. And I talked to a friend. Cheap clothes and just got bullied a lot in middle school. And then the next pivotal moment was high school. My mom got remarried. We moved to Missouri from Knoxville, Tennessee. So by that point, I had kind of a southern draw, youngest, no friends, least experience, and I got bullied a lot.
Then you went to Missouri.
Then I was in Missouri. And when I got this tooth knocked out, I decided that people weren't going to hit him.
Good.
And that's when I started doing martial arts. I did wrestling in high school because there was no MMA. It didn't exist.
Such a great thing. Wrestling's so great.
So wrestling taught me how to feel when you put your hands on someone you know you're stronger, but also how to feel when someone puts their hands on you and they're stronger. So I did wrestling for close quarter combat. I also couldn't see. I wouldn't wear glasses. And if you were close enough to hit me, I could see who you were. But I couldn't play baseball. I could barely play soccer because I couldn't see the ball. So wrestling was a sport I could do. And I got into American Taekwondo. One of my good friends said, hey, you should come work out. So I started training. I started competing.
Yeah.
I started winning Taekwondo matches and getting put in the paper. I started winning wrestling matches and get put in paper. And so I took Taekwondo all through high school. I went from white belt to brown belt in American Taekwondo. And then I joined the Army at 17. And when I was in the Army, they pay you $212, or they paid me $212 every 2 weeks, whether I wanted it or not.
Yeah.
So I couldn't afford to train. So went through the military. Martial arts got me ready for the military. And when I got out of the military, I started working at Verizon in my civilian career. And I worked retail, so I was working crazy hours. Started as a temp and worked through customer service, sales management, ran the largest retail district in the company. And in 2009, I got promoted to director, was the youngest director in Verizon over operations and marketing, and really important job.
Yeah.
More than what I ever thought I would be able to do. And I got invited to go back to my high school to do a veterans keynote speech.
Oh, real?
which was hilarious because I barely graduated high school. I had my mom senior year high school chemistry, and I got a D- in her class.
Your mom gave you
Your mom's.
Oh, yeah, she totally gave me a D- because I'm sure I failed that class. There was no way I earned a D-, so that was a gift. And the title of my speech was "You Realize I Barely Graduated." It's funny because the environment I was in high school, you could legitimately fail, and I was aware of it.
Yeah.
And when I joined the military, it was a conscious moment to give up control of my life because I knew I wasn't ready to be a man yet.
Yeah.
It was one of my first talks with God. I'm sure we'll talk about that later on. But the martial arts set me up for the military. Military set me up for a civilian career. Once I got out of the military, I learned that no one could outwork me.
Okay.
Even though I was a terrible student in high school, I was a great student in college. I just had to go to 6 colleges to get my 2-year degree because every time I moved, I had to start over.
Yeah.
And then got my 2-year degree at 29. I got my 4-year degree at 31. My wife and I walked down the aisle together. But when I was doing the keynote speech right after that, who met me off stage was one of my old martial arts instructors.
Okay.
And he's like, "Hey, Rich, great speech, great singing." He goes, "Doing great things. Congratulations on college." "Thank you, sir." And he goes, "I don't know too many people that are glad they dropped out and never finished their college degree." I'm like, "Yeah, there's an occasional Steve Jobs, but they're far between." And he goes, "Rich, you know what? I've been teaching martial arts now for 22 years. And I can't think of a student, no, one student that's ever come back to me and said, you know what? I'm glad I stopped taking martial arts before I got my black belt." And I was like, oh, that hurts. So like, yeah,
He hit you to feel, so.
it hit my feels. And then I said, I'm a father now. I've got a young son who was 3 at the time. And I wanted him to learn the things I had to learn the hard way.
Sure.
Like I definitely want to get him in. I said, but I'm not as young, I'm not as flexible as I was. So how long has it been? I'm like, all right, now you're making me do math. So it was 2009. I graduated in 96. Didn't do much. Been 13, 14 years.
Yeah.
He goes, it's a long time. He goes, let me ask you another question. Where are you going to be in the next 13 and 14 years if you don't start doing something right now? And I'm like, wow, you hit my feels again.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, hey, if I ever get a chance, I'll go back and do it. And literally no sooner did I get off the plane from that trip, I got into my wife's car. And on the dashboard, there was a flyer for the American Taekwondo Association, my old style, that opened a school 3 blocks from my house.
Here, Texas?
This was in South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah. Master Madriat. Family moved up here from Uruguay. Great people. He was short, but fast. I couldn't hit him unless he let me hit him. But at the time, I was doing 9-round boxing, kickboxing. I actually owned a 9-round franchise for a while, so I was using that to go through and get my cardio up. And as I was going through and I was working that out, I was just doing what I remembered from Taekwondo.
Yeah.
So when the school opened up, I went in and tested back for brown belt. And then I started competing again.
Okay.
And I started winning again. I made it to black belt. And in American Taekwondo, they have a tournament year and you compete. I was first degree black belt men, 30 to 39. So world title sounds cool, but when you say, all right, well, it's age and rank, there's tons of American Taekwondo world champions and they go through every year. But the process of becoming one is hard. You've got to compete all year. So I did tournaments all over the United States, and they make the top 10 in points in the U.S. and the top 4 from around the world. So you have a full ring of people that goes through and compete. So I got my black belt, competed all year, won district titles and other things, and I went to Worlds and I lost. And I remember getting on the mat and my breath was gone because my heart was beating fast.
Yeah.
And it was like just getting punched in the face in high school. And one of the things that I always remembered was how I felt when that happened. And one of the things that got me dangerous was I was used to what it felt like at a certain point in my life, and I knew I could work through it. It's when I stopped being scared. But I lost that match. And then I had to go through and start over. the very next day was the first tournament of the new year. So you compete on Saturday for World, you compete on Sunday for the first
For the next year.
for the next year. So it's two tournaments back to back, usually full rings. And I started again, and then I made it to the Tournament of Champions, and I won
The next year. Yeah.
So and I still felt the same way, but I didn't let it control me. And as I was going through and I was sparring, I tried to trick my mind into thinking, is it fear? Is it excitement? Is it a combination of both?
Yeah.
Because those two things feel very similar.
They do. Yeah. And you never know what you're in until you're in that moment. So,
Did you ever feel like after losing that you weren't going to do it again? Was there ever a doubt like, I'm not going to do it again?
no, it did. Yeah, it wasn't that for me. After I won, and I loved my school, I loved my master, I loved the family environment we had, but I got transferred through work to Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah.
And that's when I had to start over. I was busy. I had a family, I had a wife. There's a couple American Taekwondo schools here. And I tried them, and there's good people there, but they were all far. So I couldn't make it and still have a family life. And then I met Mr. Klaus. Our kids go to school together at Bethesda Christian, and we were coaching football together. And he's like, hey, you should come and work out with me.
And that's when you met Valdez.
That's when I met Valdez. Yeah.
So what's funny how I met Rich was through football. We're going about during the COVID time, right? Wasn't it? Was it like 4 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Because I met you just the next year when we did our first tournament.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so it was during the COVID time, and I remember telling my wife I saw the energy Rich had in the field. I was like, and I didn't even know her. I was like, I bet this guy's with veteran. I bet he was military.
I don't look like a veteran.
No, but the way the energy that you're getting the kids and just getting them all amped up and let's go, just that. And I told my wife, I was like, I like that guy. I'm gonna make that guy my friend. And so started talking on the field, and he was telling me some of his background. I was like, yeah, man, come over to Excel Academy. He said, we work out. And so I told Valdez about Rich, and I was like, hey, man, I said, I just want you to know. I said, met this guy, I've invited him to come to Excel. I said, I know how you feel about AT,
About the organization. Yeah.
I thought, you know how you feel. I said, so we're going to invite him. I said, let's just invite him and put him through a workout. And I'm telling you, just collect like Valdez and Rich. So Valdez, of all the talk about the organization, the ATA and stuff, he said, Jimmy, he goes, Rich might be the only one that might change my mind about AT, how they what is it? How they produce?
Well, so here's the thing. My dad and I,
We're getting ready to get deep here. I can feel it.
So my dad and I had a conversation about this several times. Yeah, you and I have talked many times about identity politics. Okay, and so what it is there are people that I know that are institutionally prejudiced, but not individually prejudiced. What I mean by that is they have a tendency to group people that have a label together, but an individual, they're like, oh yeah, no, but he's okay.
Yes.
Now, the problem is those old trappings of kind of identity politics and identity, institutional prejudice, those are very powerful because a lot of those come from, growing times and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was a time when the majority of ATA schools were just churning out low quality black belts.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean all of them were.
Right.
Because a school is as good as its leader.
Right.
And its students are as good as the example that the leader sets and stuff like that.
Right.
So you can have somebody that has an ATA school or a Champions Martial Arts or a Premier Martial Arts, and you can have somebody that has a licensing or a franchise, but they're solid, which means their school is going to be solid.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes absolute sense.
Now, you could also have somebody who buys one of those licensing or franchise that's not even a martial artist, but just a businessman, hires somebody off Indeed. You know, it's like, you got what, like 16 months experience in martial arts? Great. All right, we're going to make you a black belt. We're going to, there's nothing to stop somebody from doing that.
Yeah. Right.
And so I think a lot of the bad experiences that we have come from individual low quality schools.
Right, yeah.
And then we have a tendency to group anyone with that name in with that. I remember when the tide turned with ATA.
Okay.
And it was, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, in the mid '90s when I took it, it was very similar to what I see with Texas karate, with 2 exceptions. Hand gear, foot gear, headgear, no face shield. And it was real combat. I remember doing full contact, contact Monday nights, and we were doing mixed discipline martial arts, and it was hard going through. And when I came back to ATA in 2009, face shield, lots of things that you have to buy, lots of protection, but it felt different. But Master Madraga's school was different,
Right.
because he was tough. We trained. We had instructor trainings. We had he had formal business meetings. He had formal training sessions. He wanted the certifications, and you had to know your stuff. And when I knew Master Madraga had a good school is when I saw him fail students and
Just that. So in my mindset, right, for listening to the ATA stories was, you pay to play. Like in 6 months you'll get gold, and 6 months after that you'll get orange, and this, like, you will have your black belt in 2
Well,
years.
but what happened was within the culture of ATA, because there's a lot of really solid black belts in there.
Yeah.
What ended up happening from the outside looking in, because I know some people who are really close to them.
Yeah.
They got sick of being seen that way.
Okay.
They're like, we're not going to, we're going to do our level best to raise the quality of our black belts and training. And that happened.
Yeah.
That did happen.
The first time I fought Rich.
Yeah.
Right. Because there have been other black belts that have come to excel as guests and black belts. And I'm like, okay. Because, Valdez, you know how he traits us. And I was like, okay, so, just going through, and we have like red belts or even good quality blue belt being the black belt, right? But Rich comes along, and I was like, okay. But Rich was, he was a solid.
So that's a good lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
To never judge anybody by where they came from. Judge them based on their own merit.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do that. Like, you really have to be open-minded. It's like, whatever I think I know about your origins.
Right.
We're going to start from my handshake and an introduction, and we're going to base everything off of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
there were great things about the TA that I loved, especially as a father. The bowing in, bowing out, the life skills, and that are impressed upon: courtesy, integrity, loyalty, perseverance. Those are all things that young people and even men and women our age need to know. And when you talk about that on the mat, and every month there was a lesson, and testing, people had to talk about the life skills and to get confident speaking in front of groups. So it was more than just the martial arts. This confidence of, if you drop your weapon, you got to pick it back up and finish your form. Those are things that you can't always win. It's what happens when you face adversity, and how do you overcome that feeling
That should be a part of all martial arts instruction.
Absolutely. And when I went to Master Valdez's school, and I saw the life skills and the bow in, bow out process, in addition to Master Valdez just being a true badass.
Dude, just an exceptional martial artist.
Yes. Jimmy's like, all right, well, he's mostly blind. And you walk in, and Master Valdez calls me a big guy. And I'm not known as a bigger than the other as a big guy, but I tell you, when he hit me with these hook punches to the jaw to make my ears ring. And I'm like, how is he doing that? Master Madraga would do the same thing. He would hit me with a punch that I knew was coming every time. So over the top cross.
Yeah.
and I could see it, and he could hit me with it. And then Master Valdez started hitting me with this cross. When I would get in close and try to take the back, and then I usually take the back and break. Well, he didn't let that happen. I took his back, and he came over with a cross or over his back. I'm like, all right, I need to learn this. But it was the life skills, the quality of people. Jimmy's a great fighter. Jimmy's got 2 kids, Talon and Journey, and I remember sparring with Journey. Texas karate has different rules than what I was used to. Punch him to the face, which, okay, I did some kickboxing. I was fine with that, and I had to change my stance. The groin strikes in Texas karate,
wear a cup.
that's a totally different way of fighting. So, when I went in, I went to that school for the first time. I knew Journey. I saw her when we would greet kids, and so I get on the mat, and Journey's slight. So I'm like, all right, well, we just kind of go light. And the first thing Journey did, kicked me right in the balls.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, she must not be flexible. Right. So it must be.
No, that was intentional.
All right, well, it's just how she is. And then I saw her at a tournament, your tournament, and I saw her do her creative form where she put her leg up in the air, and she was, and I felt pride and this overwhelming sense of, oh my God, she was aiming. Totally aimed. And then
there it goes. You know the great thing about growing strikes, Richard, is the effect they have on good kickers. Because you become far less interested in kicking me in the head. If you know I'm going to kick you in the groin every single time.
Absolutely.
You become a hand fighter after that. You don't want to lift your leg off the ground.
No. Well, Valdez tells the ladies, like, you have the ultimate trump card. He goes, watch. And so he goes, Jimmy, come here. And so as soon as he aimed for the groin, he goes, now what's open?
Right.
And I was like, oh man. So of course
well, you know that you sparred me.
Yes.
And I haven't worn a cup since I was 10 years old.
Oh wow.
And if any of my students listen, that's not okay. So remember in The Princess Bride when Wesley said that I spent the last 7 years developing an immunity to iocane powder?
Yes.
There's a certain satisfaction when you kick me and you can feel I'm not wearing a cup, and I just look at you and smile.
Yeah, dude, there's nothing more.
What are you gonna do? What do you got? What else you got? And it's not that it doesn't hurt. Like, I haven't had surgery. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, but it just hurts.
Yeah.
It just hurts. It hurts, but it just hurts.
I saw a guy get kicked in the groin at a tournament when I was in high school, and his testicles swelled to like the size of a grapefruit. And after that, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So has anyone ever told you that you look like the lead singer of the Foo Fighters, or maybe the drummer of Nirvana?
Is either one. Actually, I think he looks like both of those people. No, they're two completely different guys. Dave Grohl is the name.
Yeah. You went, oh, look.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Dave Grohl on the show today. Thank you for stopping by, Dave. I appreciate it.
Yeah, funny enough, I actually, during my part-time, I'm the lead singer in a Foo Fighters cover band called the Faux Fighters, FAOU. And I go by the name Dave Swole.
Dave Swole.
So, total joke. I'm making that up, but I get Dave Grohl all the time.
Oh, man, I'm sure you do.
Awesome.
So you are a football lover.
Yes, sir.
All right, so how did you become such a lover of the Rams? Now, is it true? So are you related in any way to Mark Bulger, the quarterback of the Rams?
So my Rams journey began when I was in St. Louis and going through high school in '94, and the Rams relocated from LA to St. Louis, and they became the home team.
Okay.
And they were a terrible team when they came to St. Louis.
Hey, don't tap out of this. I know it's football talk. Don't tap out. Don't.
No. I'm all in. No, I'm all in.
I've got a Rams tattoo. If that.
Yeah.
All right. So, but I went to high school and they became the home team, and so they became my team. And then when I got in the military, out of the military, 1999, Matt McGuire broke the home lane record.
Yeah.
The St. Louis Blues made the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And the Greatest Show on Turf happened.
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford to go to a football game, but I remember watching them on TV, and the story of Kurt Warner was just amazing. I was a fan of them, but I fell in love with them during that season.
You know the story Kurt Warner, champs?
I don't even know who that is.
Kurt Warner is the quarterback of, or was the quarterback of the Rams.
Well, okay, before we continue, you just said,
Don't tap out, man.
no. I mean, I'm plugged in. That's why I'm not looking. I'm trying to pay attention with my whole brain.
Okay.
All right. You mentioned the word home run.
Home run.
You also mentioned the word Stanley Cup.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, those are neither in the world of football.
Correct.
Is that true?
It's true, but they were all in the same city, and that city was electrified.
Okay, got it. Okay, all right, keep going.
So it was just a really good moment.
Okay, so Kurt Vonnegut, go.
Kurt Vonnegut. He, the Cliff Note story was he was an arena football player. He didn't make it to the NFL at first, and everyone thought he was a subpar backup, but he did well in arena. He got hired to be this Rams backup quarterback when they brought in the guy who was supposed to be a legend, Trent Green. And there was all this hype about the team that season. They signed some good players, Marshall Faulk, they had Torrey Holt, Isaac Grace, great left tackle, Orlando Pace. They put together a really good team. But in preseason, their starting quarterback tears his ACL, and he's out for the year. So you've got this backup quarterback, Cook Warner, who's an amazing Christian, who was also bagging groceries to make money. That's where he came from. And he took over as a backup quarterback that no one knew, and he had one of the most prolific offenses in the history of the NFL. Greatest Show on Turf is still considered one of the best sports teams that has existed due to this backup Christian quarterback who bagged groceries, and great family man, had a great wife. It was just someone that you really wanted to support. So I was a Rams fan through all that. People say that the Rams went away from Kurt Warner and went to Mark Bulger, because Bulger was a quarterback for the Rams in 2002. But the way the Rams played offense, Kurt Warner was exposed, just hit. And he lasted 3 years. There was one game where he threw 6 interceptions in the first game, and they benched Kurt Warner for Jamie Martin. They benched Jamie Martin for Mark Bulger, who's a distant cousin, my grandfather's brother, son's son. That's how my stepmother explained to me we were related. But he became a quarterback. He only moved to the Pro Bowl twice. He was a Pro Bowl MVP. Rams from 2001 to 2006 were okay. And then after 2006, they became one of the most historically bad teams in NFL history. And I still wore the same jersey, number 10 Bulger jersey, to as I watched every game. I've got pictures of my children and I walking to the stadium every year.
Yeah.
Picture started out with me and my oldest son Riley holding hands. My wife took it. Then the next year she's like, we should take that picture again. He was just a little bit taller. And then they relocated to LA and we took more pictures. And then I've got 2 children. My youngest started going to games, so I've got pictures, 15 of them now, of the kids just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's awesome.
As they go through. So once a year, every year, I'll take them to see a home game.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do that until I'm gone. If they're pushing me in a wheelchair,
that's a great memory.
I'll call it a win. But my 14-year-old will still hold my hand. And I consider that.
Sure. Yeah. Awesome, man.
I went.
So after my house flooded a couple years back, we started a program at our school called Dads on Duty.
So Defenders of the Den.
Defenders of the Den, because we are the Lions. So we're Defenders of the Den. And it was after the Uvalde shooting. I felt like, man, we need to do something to protect our school.
We had this idea, throat beards.
Master Ken made a video for us. And he was talking about, it's pretty cool. Master, anyways, so we started this program. I mean, it was really weighing on my heart just after the school shooting. It's like I don't know what to do, but I have to do something. So I gave Rich my idea. I'm like, hey man, I'm thinking about in the mornings volunteering up at the school to be a presence. Like, in case anything happens, I would much rather me be in the middle of danger than danger going directly to the kids. Like, you're going to have to come through me first. So Rich was like, no, that's a great idea. I'm with this. He goes, say no more. So him and I started just to be at school in the morning drop-offs, and that we're at the door. So when the school and the bell rings, we go, we check all the doors, we check all the gates. We've had to shoo some people away from the sport. And so now, from just the idea that Rich and I had, now it's grown over to like 14 dads now. So every day there's at least one dad on duty at school.
Good.
And
We
so
haven't missed a day.
We haven't missed a day yet in the last, I think this is our third year that we're doing it. So
it's kind of like having an alarm sign in front of your house, the security event or ADT or whatever. The goal isn't to have someone test your alarm system. The goal is to have someone not test your alarm system.
Oh, yeah.
So if we could go through and just be present, because we're there, we smile, we greet kids as they're coming in. We know
really small.
Yeah.
Jimmy is more. I
Smiles break.
I look like Dave Grohl, but every now and again we'll get someone that calls and says, hey, can you shoot a homeless guy that's wearing the sleeve of the shirt off the lot? He's looking a little scruffy. And it's just Jimmy being a dad on duty.
That's all it is. So Rich, so after my house flooded, I didn't have a lot. We were relocated. And man, it was cold. And I was like, man, I said, I really need something to come with my ears, right? I was like, hey, Rich, just like, hey, man, can I borrow, cap? He goes, yeah. He goes, I got one. And so he brought, it was the Rams. And I was like, you know what? I'm all right, man. I don't. As a Bronco, I said, I can't do it, man. I'm a Broncos fan. I said, I guess I'm going to have frostbite in my ears. And that's the level. I don't want to see him petty like that. What's the word? Is that petty?
Yeah. But that's where I have such an advantage is that
Hey, you don't care. Listen, man, being a Broncos fan, like I had girls who I was dating, they wanted to go to a Broncos game. Like, hey, you want to go to a Broncos game with me? I'm like, no. I'm not going to a Broncos game with you because if anything ever happens between you and I and the Broncos never win again, that's your fault. And I did that to my team because you and I broke up. I'm like, no, you're poison. Yeah, you're poison. Sure. And that's, so Miriam,
you're like voodoo superstitious. Oh my God.
I'm not saying I'm superstitious. Well, maybe that is superstition. But
That's exactly the definition.
I guess we're gonna have to disagree with that statement.
It's not
Just
just
like
a word.
walking across the street, bread and butter. Like,
It's not just a word, it's the definition.
right.
So Miriam,
Right.
Miriam, yeah, it might be the definition. So Miriam in 2005, when I was there, we were going to Colorado. We were going to Denver to visit family during Christmas time. I'm like, man, the Broncos are playing the Raiders. I had a phone. I was like, man, do I want to take it? And things were getting serious with me. But I already have one failed marriage, so I was like, man, I'm not going to get married again. Forget it. But so I took her. So my family had season tickets. They got season tickets to the Broncos game, but they gave Miriam 2 tickets. So I was like, okay, we're going to see how this goes. The Broncos won. And I was like, love this for her. She's going to be with me forever.
Don't ever tell her that.
She knows this story. Yeah, I told her. So then they won back-to-back, or they won, of course, this was 98, 99 when they won back-to-back. But that was, so after I met Miriam in 2005, so they won again, Super Bowl 50. So I'm just saying that I'm not superstitious. They didn't lose, but maybe I am superstitious.
All right. I'm gonna have to pull us out of this because here's
Because you hate sports, or because
listen. Yes, I hate.
Why do you hate America
I don't
so much?
listen.
Why do you hate America?
Listen, I love America.
Go on.
Because I have the right
Yeah,
to not care
it is true, man. You do have
about
that right.
sports. Now, here's the thing. One of my mentors, I go to his house on Wednesday nights.
Okay.
And he's like y'all. He's normal.
That might be an overstatement, but
No, as far as his affinity for group and professional sports, loves them, loves professional games, loves this, loves what I mean.
Yeah.
And he's telling me this, and the thing is that my eyes are just glassing over.
Yeah, kind of like how they were here during this talk.
So he told me that he went to a professional sporting game last night, and that was the extent of the information
Did
that I
you say
retained.
it professional sporting game?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I meant. Like, that's the extent of what I remember about that, is that he went to a professional sports ball contest between two people.
So by you saying that cements in my mind that you really care 0%.
I don't know. So here's the thing. Please understand. I don't hate sports.
I know.
I don't like. Okay, if you were to put on a television show of sweet, loving children getting kicked in the head by giant ogres, I would hate that. That would be terrible.
Why?
That's not how.
Well, I'm just wondering. I mean, I'm intrigued now.
There's children getting kicked in the head, Jimmy.
By ogres.
Like that. Like. So I would hate that.
Again, we're gonna disagree, but
Yeah.
this is bad.
Like, I hate that. That's not how I feel about sports. I just am so profoundly uninterested.
But the opposite of love is not hate.
Right, it's a difference.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
the thing is, I have a real. The reason I'm trying to get us off sports is I want to hear about logistics.
Yeah. So
Okay. But before we do that, put the book down. The reason I have no interest in sports is because you generally get that from your childhood in your family, the way your kids have.
Yeah.
Right? I love watching fights because my entire life I was watching fights with my dad. That's all I did, is I watched that over and over and over. We never had it on TV. It was that we never went to a game. Like, we never did any of those things. So it never caught in me. Does that make sense?
No,
Most
absolutely
little
makes sense,
boys
yeah.
get that from growing up in their family.
Well, my oldest son right now, he's got a near photographic memory. Very, very smart. Smarter than I'll ever be. I didn't want to do fantasy football. And I've always said, friends, hey, you want to join our fantasy football league? I always said no. Because I was afraid, being a competitive person, of who I would become if I really started focusing in on it. I built spreadsheets. I don't want to go through. I need to apply my mind to solving problems.
Yeah.
And then my son, we had a small group at our house, and there was no kids his age, and he was a Chad. And I'm like, all right, hey, let me show you Matt. So I took him upstairs, and I put Matt in on our media room. And he basically locked himself in that room for 2 days, and by the time he came out, he had memorized Madden, everything. Players, when they graduated, what their stats were, the year. Were they trending up? Were they trending down? And he started really getting into it. So when he's like, Dad, I want to do fantasy football. And I'm like, all right, if my son wants to do applied statistics, I should get over my own fears and let that happen. So we joined a couple fantasy football leagues. We won a lot of money last year in fantasy football. He managed the roster, but it wasn't just the winning. It was the conversations.
Sure.
Hey, Dad.
That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that growing up.
Yeah, with sports, but in fighting and martial arts, he did.
Right. But the funny thing is, this is the funny ending to that story.
Yeah.
Is that my father got hired as the Sac State motivational coach after I already was grown with kids.
Yeah.
And I went to his house and he's watching football. And I'm like, where was this when I was a kid? Do you know how much I was made fun of because I didn't know anything? He was like, oh, it's a fascinating thing to say. I was like, no, sir. No, sir. You don't get to do this now.
Yeah, that's
all right.
so
Tell
cool.
us about logistics.
Yeah, let's talk about this. So this right here, Rich, this is Chance's copy now.
Yep.
So you wrote a book going circular, the evolution of reverse logistics into a competitive weapon. This is your copy. Talk to us like we're five. Make us smart in what reverse logistics is.
So the easiest way to describe reverse logistics is to describe forward logistics. Have you ever bought anything from Amazon?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So you go through this cup. Forward logistics is you make the cup, you put everything together, you package it, and you get it to the person who's using it. You buy it on Amazon, it gets shipped to your house. It's forward logistics. Reverse is, well, what happens if you don't want something? Most people understand the buy, they see the buy, the forward, but when the thing gets shipped off, it becomes invisible to them because it's not in their possession anymore. So forward logistics is moving from the point we make.
Direct off. You sound a little PTSD with mics, by the way.
No, that's good. I'm glad you caught that.
Oh, yeah.
Forward logistics is from the point of make to the next point of use. Reverse logistics is from that point of use to another point. Doesn't necessarily have to go
Back to the point of origin.
right. What got me into this field of reverse logistics, and everyone thinks reverse logistics are bad, returns are bad. One of the first return programs I was able to find was generated from a sales practice. Montgomery Ward in the 1890s made a promise that if you bought anything from his mail order catalog and you didn't like it, you just send it back and get your money back. So that created the first time where people that I was able to find that people could use something and if they didn't want it, send it back. The military was doing forward and logistics from point to point for a long time.
Yeah.
Put equipment into a place, put equipment back. How do you go through and do that? The withdrawal from Afghanistan, all the equipment that we left there was because we didn't have a plan to go through
Reverse logistics.
and get it back that was executable. The first Model Ts that rolled off the assembly line were made with peat moss in the seats, and the peat moss had bugs in it, chiggers. So the first Model Ts that rolled off the line had to have a recall, pull back to get the bugs out of the seats. So it created this environment where all returns were bad, and you want to drive them down. There's an industry term, the circular economy, that's starting to materialize. Started in 2014-ish. Ellen MacArthur started talking about getting product from the hands of the first person to the next person. What got me into this field was I'm a young marketing director, $6 billion region, 10 million subscribers that has an operations remit. I got to drive down unwanted returns. I've got to drive down discounts, but I also have to make sure we get customers and keep customers. Have you ever traded in your phone when you were buying your next device?
Mm-hmm.
I started that program for Verizon in 2010 when everyone thought I was an idiot trying to buy devices back, but my Army truck driver brain thought if their old device was worth $100 and I could use that device as a payment methodology to go through and help the customer buy the next one, I could sell them more things. So I wanted to try to go through. You're more likely to sell your house when you're buying a new house. And if you get more money for your house, you're going to buy a more expensive house. The same thing with the vehicle. I'm like, why can't that work for a cell phone?
They didn't do, you're the one that started it.
For Verizon, I did.
Because I'm with Verizon and that's the standard issue now.
Yeah, you should know how hard they fought me on that idea.
Are you serious?
I did a 2-district pilot of we had 17 districts in our market, and my 2 retail directors are like, "This is stupid. It's going to take too much time. It's not going to add any value." The deal was if the company that I was selling the devices to, they gave us a catalog, and if we sold it for 100, and I was able to execute on getting that thing back to the right place, they paid me 150. So it was a scenario where I'm like, all right, well, more money, new revenue stream, will make customers happy because they're getting value for something they no longer want. The environment's going to win. And if I do it right, our return rate will drop because you can't go back to your old device if we have your old device. Wow. So I got 2 of my friends that were district managers saying, yes, let's go through and trial it.
Yeah.
And went through, rolled it out. And I built the systems, the interfaces, the methodology to get the things to the right places. And we had a reach-in review. So think of a big business meeting, room like the size of the red mats with a horseshoe table. Region president in the middle, great leader, but an intimidating personality. Then you had the finance associate director, I love him, we called Dr. No, on the left. I was the marketing guy with a binder full of information. I knew everyone's stats on the right, and all of the district managers were on the sides with their numbers on a overhead screen, naked for the world to see. And the business at the time looked at things in 2 colors. Green, are you helping? Red, are you hurting? If you're above the average, you're green. If you're below the average, you're red, and everyone's stack rank. The 2 districts that had the program that no one else wanted to trial because they thought it would take too much time,
Great.
were number one and number two in green in everything. I mean,
Nice.
and we knew it was going to work when the other 15 district managers complained about not having the program as to why their numbers weren't as good as the other ones. So then he looked at me and said, all right, Rich, put this in all of our stores. We were one of 21 regions. We were the largest of 21 regions. So fast forward 3 months, now we're doing our area review. We're in a review with the C-suite showing our numbers, and we were number one in everything. And we had this new revenue stream that no one else had.
Yeah.
And we presented it, and they said, all right, put this in all the stores. And then I get a call after that review from the vice president of supply chain saying, hey, Rich, I hear you're really good at reverse logistics. How would you like to move your family to Fort Worth and run Verizon's CRTC? And I'm like, well, that sounds super cool. Thank you for thinking of me, but I've got 2 questions. What is reverse logistics? And what is a CRTC? Centralized Returns and Testing Center. So all the devices at Verizon has returned, exchange, traded in, go to a place here in Fort Worth. I got to run a facility that pushed 15 million devices through. I got to run a $300 million a year P&L. I got to fix phones with Apple, Samsung, Motorola. I got to see world-class robotics and automation. And I got to shadow from one of the best leaders in the industry, Erica Pollock. After 2 years of doing that, she comes to me and says, all right, Rich, the trade-in program had just broke $1 billion in revenue.
Nice.
You spent $300 million last year. Since we've grown the business, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take your job, I had an operations remit and a repair remit, and we're going to split it in half. I had 2 people. The person who's running the sales team is going to run planning, and I want you to take over the sales team. You've got to grow the $1 billion business to $1.3 billion in 12 months. I've got to jump on a plane. I'll call you on Monday and tell me how you're going to do it. So that's when I started getting into this reverse monetization, matching used supply with used demand. The reason why I could trade in my 2015 Dodge Ram right now for $22,000 is because someone else is going to pay $28,000 for it. And the one who wants to buy a $80,000 Dodge Ram isn't going to be at all interested in the 2015 Dodge Ram. So the used thing is not a threat to the next new thing. The used thing is an enabler, right, to help sell the new things. And Apple tried to get me fired. I went to headquarters 3 minutes because they hated the trade-in program. They thought it was cannibalizing their new sales until they realized that the only reason why they could charge $1,500 for an iPhone right now is because the old one is still worth $8. Every year they'll roll out with a new device that has more features and better resolution camera, but a higher price point. And the other thing that they saw was Apple makes 30 cents on the dollar for every thing you buy on iTunes, whether it's a Clash of Clans gem pack for $9.99 or a song or a VPN subscription, whatever it is. They take 30 cents on the dollar for everything that goes through. So when they started seeing these older iPhones light up in different parts of the world where people had to put in their credit cards, they started getting subscription revenue that they didn't see. They started noticing, well, hey, this is getting to be a really hot market. So even though they didn't have a built sales team there, if you grow the market to a point where it can support new sales, well, then that's when you go through and target expansion. And then when used iPhones were displacing new Huawei devices, now you're attacking your competitors with your used things. And I grew the business from $1 billion to $1.6 billion, matching used supply with used demand. To date, Verizon's the only one that's selling product in good, better, best condition on eBay, Amazon, Sears.com, Walmart.com. Built 2 sub-brands. So through trial and error, when it went from operations and marketing to reverse logistics, I tell people it was like going from tennis to taekwondo. You have to be athletic, but the rules are different, and people are trying to kick you in the face. If you don't get your money back when you send something in, you're going to blame the warehouse because you're at the end. You're the one holding the hot potato. But if the data broke from the point of sale system, where it didn't transfer the information to the return center of this is Chance, he bought this book, he paid $19.99 on this credit card. If that information doesn't make it there, they still blame the end of the line because it's the last one to touch it. It's a game of logistics hot potato. So I did really good at the entire end-to-end process. And
So there was obviously no book about it, right?
there was no book that I was able to find at that time.
Okay.
So reverse logistics right now, the retail industry in the U.S. is $5.13 trillion. Unwanted returns, according to the National Retail Federation, last year were $743 billion. The size of the secondary market is now over $700 billion and growing year over year. So you've got $1.5 trillion of value that's flowing through reverse, but no one knows how to do it. There's only one college on the planet that I've been able to find that teaches reverse logistics. And it's the American Public University Systems.
Okay.
They've got two branches, the American Military University, which is where a lot of soldiers right now are getting their degrees.
Yeah.
When we were in, it was correspondence classes.
Right.
And the American Public University, which is the civilian part. When I was at Cisco running their global reverse, I was able to be on the advisory board of the Reverse Logistics Association. And I learned that the RLA had sponsored this course in 2014. And I'm like, well, I'm on the board, so I should probably take the course. I got my 2-year degree online. I got my 4-year degree online. Like, if there's an online master's degree program for reverse logistics, I wanted to see if I could take a course that I could use our company's tuition assistance to train my employee base.
Yeah.
I wanted to be in class with people that, number one, knew what reverse logistics was, and number two, are pursuing a degree in it, because those were the people I wanted to hire from renting. Bonus being with military, those are kind of my peeps.
Yeah.
And so I went through and I started taking this course. By this time, I'm running Cisco's global reverse logistics, maker of stainless and a distributor of stainless. I'm running international reverse logistics, running a plant in the Netherlands, Hong Kong, Japan, here in the U.S. Full places to help me ship our products across borders, because it's hard to get new things into a country. It's even harder to get used things into a country. So I had all this experience. I'm on this board with these people that have similar problems, and there's no company training how to do it. So I'm taking this course, and about 7 classes in, the textbook that they were using was called Going Backwards, Reverse Logistics Trends and Best Practices, that was written in 1999. All returns are bad. 7 classes in, I'm in a class with the professor, and I'm talking about driving returns up. You've got to buy returns back. There's a competition for them now, because you're not going to trade in your car to a dealership that's going to give you $3,000 when Kelley Blue Book says it's worth $22. At a different place, you're going to find the best value. If you tell someone, hey, you bought this and I'm not taking it back, they're going to put it on Facebook Marketplace, whether the brand or the manufacturer wants it to be or not. So I'm talking about there's competition now. You've got to be able to leverage it. And he starts giving me C's on my assignments, saying, hey, what you're talking about is not in the book. And if it's not in the book and you can't cite your source, you shouldn't do it. I'm like, but I'm doing this every day. I'm winning Gartner Supply Chain Awards. I'm building billion-dollar businesses. This is how we're doing it. And he's like, well, if it's not in the book, I'm like, well, what if I wrote a new book? He's like, you can't write a book. And I'm like, tell me I can't do something one more time. So the Reverse Logistics Association wanted a new book. Auburn was my academic sponsor. I had 20 years of explaining to people what reverse logistics was. I had all these stories that I had recent research, because I had just done a master's degree program. So I made up my mind in January of last year to write the book. And I gave 900 copies of it away this year at the Reverse Logistics event in January. And I just gave another 100 copies away in Amsterdam a couple months ago, because I wanted to go through and build something that we could give to our employees.
Yeah.
That would explain what reverse logistics is and how to do it. Not saying I'm the best in the industry in it. It's complicated, it's hard, and I had to put it in Army truck driver language.
Yeah.
To try to simplify it.
But for dumbing it down for the military guys.
Yeah.
Well, so I think I understand what you're talking about. And my first thought when you said this was, if logistics is going from Amazon's app to my house, like from the point of me ordering it to it showing up at my house,
For logistics.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
my mind is reverse logistics is that exact same path back to Amazon, but that's not what you're saying. It is.
That is a path.
That is but it is not the totality of
Not
it.
the only path.
Right. Like it could go from me to a completely different point and then to another completely different point. So reverse logistics is anything that happens after the original destination.
Yes.
And what is that about efficiency and trying to quit being so wasteful with our stuff?
That's one of the reasons. One of the reasons is
We throw things away that have plenty of use in them.
Totally agree. And the internet has made it easier to match use supply with use demand than any other point. The newer generation, Gen Z and millennials, eBay did a study, 80% of them bought something used in the last year. They're willing to spend more. 42% of Gen Z are checking the resale value of their clothing before they buy it.
Wow.
Because they know the value that could be there.
Yeah.
I've started using a term called circular logistics.
Okay.
And I define a circular economy as the movement from one customer to the next customer. How do you go through and do that? It's kind of the infinity loop that I have on my book.
Yeah.
And you can measure the success of your circular logistics program by measuring how often a product goes through forward logistics to a point, through reverse logistics from that point, through forward logistics to the next point. And if you define the circular economy as moving products from one customer to the next, and you realize that two of the most successful circular economies on the planet, no one thinks of the circular economies. Real estate, you're more likely to sell your house when you're buying a new house. You're not going to recycle your house unless there's no value, which doesn't happen. There's tons of.
You're not going to demo it and
Yeah, you're not going to do the same thing with your car. You'd be silly if you did.
Yeah.
So the economics made it circular before the motivation to be green.
That's cool.
Made it circular, and you're seeing that now with electronics. You're seeing it with the apparel.
Right.
So, I mean, you made me smarter on it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
as we wind down, because Chance has a meeting here in just a few minutes, but just a quick 1 minute. How did martial arts, your time in the military, just translate into obviously not giving up writing this book and telling your teacher that gave you C's to go punt,
Walk off a cliff.
go walk off, there, go walk off a cliff.
Well, martial arts gave me the confidence that when I was in basic training, I didn't have to be the best, but I was stronger than average. All I had to do was put one foot in front of the other, and I knew how to work myself through discomfort. So basic was not a challenge. And then I went in as an Army truck driver. Barely graduated high school, but I maxed out the ASVAB, the aptitude test, and I picked being a truck driver because it was close to home. I didn't want to keep my hair short for too long. I wanted to go to college at night.
Yeah.
And I wound up winning 6 soldier of the month over the quarter boards. And by the time I was 18, I was driving the 3rd highest ranking officer in the 101st Airborne Division.
Yeah.
So the martial arts trained me for the military. The military taught me that humility, taught me leadership, taught me perseverance, taught me that I can work. And when I went to the civilian career, I learned that I could outwork anyone. I wasn't afraid of discomfort. I wasn't afraid of a challenge. I wasn't afraid of trying something new, picking up a new weapon. Land fine. You got to pick it up and you got to move forward.
Yeah.
So I credit martial arts for helping me get through being the child of a single mom, not having confidence or discipline, to giving me the confidence and discipline to put myself in a crazy unknown situation in the military. And that's given me the confidence to where I can move to Texas, I can move to Amsterdam, I can move to Japan.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of that stuff.
That's cool. Yeah. Man, listen, man, this has been
I've been fascinating.
So I'm really glad that you jumped on this podcast, man. And I hate to
Episode 18.
Episode 18, man. Right. That's right. Obviously, we can't buy tobacco. I didn't know that. I guess we can't. The laws changed.
Don't try.
We got to wait. We got to wait 3 more episodes before we can do that.
Yeah.
Guys, listen. How can people find you, Rich, on LinkedIn? Where you
LinkedIn, Rich Bulger. You can find Going Circular, the evolution of reverse logistics into a competitive weapon on Amazon.
Yep.
You can find me at Master Aldez's Excel Academy, and the occasional Friday night fight.
The occasional Friday night over here. Yep.
Guys, listen, we appreciate you guys following us. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify. Go like us on Facebook, Instagram, Legends and Dragons. Love you guys. Until next time.